Hey guys, it's Deanna from Hot for History, and Prince Harry is now an international threat. He just spilled the beans on some military secrets in his new book, Spare. Apparently, the BBC got a copy of it, or it was the Telegraph. And so we're just getting fire hosed with Harry and Meghan in general with so much content. And today, even though the book isn't supposed to be released until I believe on Sunday, and there's 2 interviews with Anderson Cooper, and then I think it's ITV, it just goes on and on and on. But this particular piece is scathing, and I'm just going to tell you right here and now that it is absolutely true that things like this literally could create a big problem. I'm going to read 4 different articles. We're going to talk about it a little bit. There's so much more that's going to be coming out with the book. So we will readdress that at a later point, but let's do this. So my name's Deanna. I am from Hot for History, and my channel is mainly history content, but we cannot help but address this. In fact, Afghanistan and the Taliban, some of it is still ongoing, but some of this that he addressed is history, but he's bringing it back into the forefront. So I welcome all of you guys, and I'll pick up some of your questions in a second, but I am going to address this because it's very, I can just imagine, like, if you think about this, and I'm going to read the articles, but King Charles is going to have his coronation. The royal family has been hush hush about all of this other stuff. Also reported to be in the book is about Harry and his brother fighting, which to me, I don't know. I'm going to go on a whole thing with that. I'm going to create a short on that, and then we're going to talk about that maybe tomorrow. He talks about his virginity, losing it in the back of a pub, outside of a pub when he was 17. I mean, but this particular thing is very, very scathing. So I'm going to start right now with the one article from Al Jazeera. And this one, it doesn't go in as much detail as to how bad it can be, but I'm just going to read it. So in a nutshell, they start off with Al Jazeera talking about how Harry acknowledged killing 25 people in Afghanistan. Now, those of you who know anybody who's in the military, like by the way, I just drove 20 hours in the past 2 days, got in here, hadn't been listening to the news, and then caught this. And I'm like, I have to go live even though I'm exhausted. But I was in the Midwest where I love to go because all of my older relatives are there. My new friend Willard is dating Pauline. Willard's 98. He met my Aunt Pauline in April. She's 88. They've been dating. He was in Battle of the Bulge, one of the last survivors, or the few survivors. He's so old. If you asked him how many people he killed or how many people he saw that had died, he will not reveal that. And that has been my experience with most of the people I know, whether it was Vietnam, the Korean War, World War II, Iraq, like they do not reveal this. So I'm shocked. But anyhow, so Prince Harry acknowledged killing 25 people in Afghanistan during his time as an Apache helicopter pilot. He had been actually there for 10 years. He became a captain. He was in 2 tours. And he said he served in Afghanistan first as a forward air controller in air raids between 2007 and 8, then flying the attack helicopter between 2012 and 2013. And his book, which is coming out Sunday, I believe, in which he revealed that he undertook 6 missions as a pilot, led him to taking human lives. Now, this was from the Daily Telegraph. It was reported today. Now, the Telegraph says that they got a copy of the book, and it was in Spanish, and then they translated it. And then they quote from the book. Okay, my number, and this is Harry speaking, my number is 25. It's not a number that fills me with satisfaction, but nor does it embarrass me. And he says that there were video cameras mounted on the nose of the Apache helicopter, which enabled him to assess his missions and determine with certainty how many he had killed. I'm going to read something else later that says that that was an impossibility. Okay. But the prince explained his justification for his actions because of the 9/11 attacks in the United States and meeting families of victims. He said those responsible and their sympathizers were enemies of humanity, and fighting them was an act of vengeance for the crime against humanity. The U.S.-led foreign forces withdrew from Afghanistan August 2021, which was very dramatic. We won't get too political on that. And honestly, Harry shouldn't become too political because, I mean, it's sort of a standard for the royal family not to get into politics that much. But in addition, like, this goes beyond anything. And I'm concerned about his discernment in general. I feel like there is no wisdom. I don't know who is consulting him. I mean, I don't have anywhere near like the notoriety that he would have, but I have been in the entertainment business my entire professional life. And I will tell you, whoever, like, how could anybody let this be released in that way in this book? Who is he talking to? He's concerned about his own personal security and his family security. And now this. So this is just crazy. So in the already controversial book to be published January 10th, Harry talked for the first time about the number of Taliban fighters he killed. Like, what? What are you doing? Like, when my kids, like, I have adult kids. My youngest is 16. My oldest is 30. Yes. But like, somebody needs to take this. I mean, he's a man, right? And like, why doesn't he have this wisdom? Like, this is just common sense. Like, like undercover, like low key on this. Absolutely be low key. So he served in the military for British Army for 10 years, became a captain, and he described his time in the military as his formative years. And here we go. This is in Al Jazeera. There have been security concerns because of Harry's military service, which are likely to increase after he revealed the number of people he's killed during this time. The Telegraph quoted extract from a Spanish version, so they admit where they got that. Oh my gosh. Why should we believe him? Priscilla, I am going to kind of get into something because you are absolutely right. Like, how there are many soldiers that tell how many kills they have just read military booklets. I know, but here's the thing. If you are concerned about your family's safety and you are a public figure, and you're not only a public figure, but you're like a head of state in some sense. I know that the British family doesn't have official power. The king doesn't, but he's the king's son. The king is having a coronation soon. And like, now, even if he was invited, like, it's dangerous. So, okay, let's move on to the next article. And okay, so now we have the next article, which is from Yahoo News. Let's talk about that one as well. Okay, so Prince Harry has broken 4 military code of conduct values, says an Army officer. Okay, so Prince Harry has broken at least 4 values of the military in his memoir, that included his claims that he killed 25 people in Afghanistan. So there's a former senior British military advisor, Major General Chip Chapman, and he joined several military figures. So now, like, as if like just us public kind of being entertained by him, we're like, do you like Meghan? Do you like Harry? Like, we're just talking about like domestic stuff. So now the military is getting together to discuss Harry, Meghan, and the memoir. Like, why? Like, why does it need to be like this? Okay, so they're saying that it is crassly and naively stupid as well as disloyal. And then he goes on to explain Harry's book opens him up for every jihadist and nutcase out there. I mean, none of us want that for him. So one Taliban leader has also condemned the Duke for describing those he killed as chess players. Okay, I didn't read you guys the quote yet, but Major General Chapman said Harry claims his claims have broken every value of respect of others, integrity, loyalty, and selfless commitment. So let's move on. It says his accounts include series of bombshell claims, including his fight with his brother, which we're going to get into tomorrow. But he said, I'm trying to find Harry's quote. So anyhow, this says it's an awful lack of judgment and maturity. It's a naive approach on how the military should act. Also, he was not on the ground. There's no way that he could ID anyone or bury them. He was in a helicopter. So this major general is saying, I don't know how Harry could count 25 people. He says there's no way he could ID anyone or bury them to give a specific number. He says, quite frankly, it's ridiculous. It's not even true. So in this book, which was released early by mistake in Spain, Harry said he would watch a video of every kill from a camera attached to the nose of the helicopters he flew flying. It seemed to be essential not to be afraid of that number. So my number, he says, here's his quote, is 25. It's not a number that fills me with satisfaction, but nor does it embarrass me. And then Chapman says it's not only the military figure to criticize. He's not the only military figure to criticize him. The security warnings. This is so disappointing and so concerning. So the military warnings were also echoed by Colonel Richard Kemp, who served in Afghanistan. In terms of the numbers he's talking about, he himself is already under a threat. So he was under a big threat when he served. Like they had to have extra security, and mainly from what I hear, obviously I'm not an expert, they had to keep him tight around the base only in general. So that's the other thing, is like, how does that happen if they kept him mainly around the base? So, and he says by resurrecting this conversation, it now undermines his own security. That sort of figure that doesn't need to be given. It will remind people that 10 years ago, there was a very high profile man killing people that they might have sympathy for in Afghanistan and might well be provoked to attempt revenge. Now, Anna Haqqani, who is a Taliban leader in Afghanistan, condemned the Duke for describing those he's killed as chess players. So he did call them chess players. But added that that many who have killed Afghans have your decency to reveal your conscience and confess the war crimes. Lord Derek, former national security advisor, said he would have advised against Harry revealing those details, while former commando Ben McBean told the prince to shut up. Colonel Tim Collins, known for a pre-battle speech he made in Iraq, said Harry has now turned against his other family, the military. He told Forces News on Friday, amongst his assertions is a claim that he killed 25 people in Afghanistan. So again, as I said, he, we were just, kind of, when I come on here, I mean, I talk about history. I'm in the entertainment and edutainment, right? So I'm covering Harry because there's a history with the royal family. So for me, I'm just curious as the family aspect of how, like, the son could be leaving and now the king is rising when the queen dies. It's connected to history. And this is connected to history too. But we all have cast our opinions based on what we see. Like, was the royal family right? Are they right? Are they all right? Who's leaking stories now? But Harry is complaining about the royal family constantly gaslighting. And yet he's the one exposing himself. Like, he's exposing himself in such an unwise way. Like, you could still have a documentary or still have a biography, which, by the way, oftentimes they have ghostwriters writing these, but the ghostwriters write these based on interviews and based on your approval. So former Royal Marine Conservative MP for Beckenham, Bob Stewart, who served 7 tours in Northern Ireland and led UN troops in Bosnia, told the Daily Mail, I wonder why he's doing such things. Real soldiers tend to shy away. People I know don't boast about such things. They rather regret that they have to do it. Oh, okay. So I have 2 other articles that I want. So I'm just looking at your comments, guys. Sorry, I haven't. Harry would have. Okay. Owen said something before we started. Sorry, Owen. post your, your comment in here, but he said, do you think Harry's doing this because they were having such hard time getting security approved by, his dad, by King Charles? Like, is this why Harry is doing this? I mean, it's an intriguing thought, but I don't think so. I mean, he's definitely going to need more security now. I mean, if obviously he's my son and I love my son, irregardless of what he would say, I would probably want to, like, this would be the time to talk to your son. This would be the time to talk to your son and say, hey, we need to talk. So anyhow, I just, yeah, now you guys are talking about Diana, and yeah, there's that whole can of beans. Yeah, so let's go on to the next thing. Okay, so now we have Reuters. Guys, and then I'll try to get to most of the questions. I just have this one and then one other article, and I think you guys would be interested in this if you haven't already read it, because we can kind of brainstorm it all together. So Reuters, basically some of the same stuff, but the headline is Taliban criticizes Prince Harry over Afghan killings comment. So the Taliban administration. So let's review. The book Spare is not even out. There's supposed to be an interview with Anderson Cooper on 60 Minutes. I don't think it's tomorrow night. I think it's Sunday night, but I will double check. Anderson Cooper and somebody. So there's supposed to be their article. The Telegraph gets the Spanish version, translates it. Now we have these, little snippets of things, and this is what they bring out before the book. So obviously there's a lot of buzz. Many times it's intentional before the release of a book. But let's review this. Harry leaves the royal family because he wants his independence with Meghan. Those of you who are new, I will let you know, like we've discussed, like we understand on one hand why they would want their own freedom, and neither side is necessarily innocent, except in this particular case, quite frankly, the royal family is remaining quiet, classy. Harry and Meghan, it's a new monarchy. Maybe what they're doing is just naturally stirring the pot because things are going to be changing, and nobody blames anybody for wanting their independence, wanting to be able to make their own money. But it's like when I said they're fire hosing us, it's like they are like grabbing, all of the opportunity that they can. They're grabbing the bull by the horns, basically. But without discernment, without wisdom. And if anybody's like gaslighting anybody, I feel personally that Harry's doing that. And also, I will say this, I'm not a giant fan of Meghan, but I am just tired of everybody blaming Meghan on so much stuff, because Harry could, like, where's the wisdom? So anyhow, for those of you who have followed, I'm kind of like torn, like I'm torn between the two. So, he acts like a kid with a car, reckless. He wrote these things. Yes, he approved. Yes, Kim. Okay, so this is exactly my point too. Like I said, nowhere near the notoriety that they have, but I also know that in the entertainment business, you have final drafts. You have to sign off on things. You have to agree to them. You have to approve them, even with Netflix. Like, you don't sign a Netflix deal, even if they're giving you hundreds and hundreds of million, and then say, well, I don't have any approval. Are you kidding me? You're the son of a king. You're a prince. You have the leverage. You're the one with the leverage. So it leaves us all to believe that, I'm sorry, that you're just stupid. Like, what the heck? Like, are you not talking to a publicist? Because your image recently, yours and Meghan, is not really, I don't know, really. So, if you were my son and if I was your brother, like William, I might want to be like, come on, dude. Like, who's going to wake him up if nobody's saying, like, this is not wise? And it seems to me like if it's, whether, I can't remember if his publisher is Penguin House or something like that. Like, they're not going to, everybody knows who's in the entertainment business that the publishers, the network, they really don't care if they're exploiting you. Like, you have to create your own boundaries and your own terms and stick to them. And has he? I don't think so. Okay, so let's read Reuters first. I'm going to skip past. They talk about the whole thing with the chess pieces. Just for me to paraphrase, he basically said, I'm not embarrassed. I'm not necessarily proud of it. It was just that the military trained me so well that I was able to remove myself to seeing them as people and just seeing them as targets. And then he said, as like chess pieces was basically, and that is what was offensive, like just seeing humans as chess pieces. So it was released in Spain. In one section, this is a lot of the same, but okay, so he says, it wasn't a statistic that filled me with pride. This is Harry speaking, but nor did it leave me ashamed. He says, when I found myself plunged in the heat and confusion of combat, I didn't think of those 25 as people. They were chess pieces removed from the board, bad people eliminated before they could kill good people. Abdul Kahar Balki, spokesman for the Taliban. Like, can you believe, like, we're talking, the Taliban is commenting on Harry's book. Like, this shouldn't be happening. It's like, this is it. I mean, it's entertainment. It's a biography, but now it's crossed the line into being, like I started this, almost as if Harry is an international threat. I don't want to see him that way. I want to see him as just, a face of the UK, and under the best of circumstances as the royal family, and by the way, I'm not making any comments on what I feel. I'm an American. I have my own 9/11 story. I was there. I was working in the building the week before this happened because I had a big band. Like I said, I've been in entertainment my whole life. I played up there. I knew the people up at Windows on the World. I was there. I was in New York City. The night before, I was in Manhattan, drove home to Queens. I'm not going to go into it. So I have my own feelings and drama, but that's not what we're talking about right now. A lot of this is like, anyhow, I'm not talking about people who worked so hard and other soldiers who worked so hard and fought for what we believed was true. And what what I'm commenting on is the wisdom of what he's talking about. So he talks about them as being chess pieces. And then it says the Western occupation of Afghanistan is truly an odious moment in human history, and comments, this is the Taliban guy saying this, again, Abdul Kahar Balki, comments by Prince Harry is a microcosm of the trauma experienced by the Afghans at the hands of occupation forces who murdered innocents without any accountability. There are people and families that are on the ground. And then he's, talking about this. When asked about Harry's comment, a spokesman for Britain's Ministry of Defense said, "We do not comment on operational details for security reasons." Representatives of Prince Harry did not respond for comment. And then they talk about the book being released. As is usual, the royal family said nothing. And then the British media has gone through this. And then this Reuters article ends with a woman named Robin Parker, who's an entrepreneur. And she goes, "I think he's an idiot. My father was in the Second World War, and I once asked him as a child if he'd kill anyone and if he had killed anyone, and he was very reluctant to say anything." I mean, I don't know if we've seen anything like this in the entertainment or in the publishing world. I guess we have, but okay. So this is the last article, and then I'm going to try to get to more of the questions. He was not ever in a position to kill anyone. He should have kept those lies to himself. And I mean, Deborah, that's what I think. I think, like, how could it be that there's just so much confusion? And maybe with the last article I'm reading, we'll figure it out. But like, I heard that when he was in the military, like, in all honesty, he was surrounded by his own security. So he's making it sound like he was just out there free to just do whatever the heck he wanted. And so that's the other thing about this, is that first off, he makes a statement that is scathing. It's igniting things. It's bringing up division and more divisive stuff. It's bringing the UK back into the picture with Afghanistan, which means now the US and all of the, all of that. But on top of that, like, do we even know if the thing that he's throwing out there as if it's truth, and all of these major generals are like, I don't even know how you could know that, because you can't even, you're in the airplane, he's surrounded by other people. How could he have counted? And Harry's like, oh yeah, I counted. So like, we don't even know, like, this is, again, their credibility. If they wanted credibility to give a biography, to tell their story, we already know that in the first, I think it was the first three episodes of the docuseries, some of their press, like the one photo that they had was, or one video clip was like a Harry Potter premiere of them being attacked by the press. The other was Michael Cohen, who was at the time Trump's lawyer, and like, they took the picture of all the press. It wasn't even their press. And now in his book, he's making these statements like, I'm just going to tell you, I always loved Harry. He was my favorite. I love William too. I always loved Harry. But every day I keep thinking, is the guy like, either like, is he stupid? Like, he's 30 something years old, 38, I think. Like, he should know better than to say this stuff, or at least humble himself enough to get experts around, have somebody read it that maybe was in the military. Is this like with him, have his people tell him, surround yourself with people who are not afraid to say, you are effing crazy if you're going to release that. You don't want to surround yourself in any kind of business with thousands of yes people, or anybody, even your wife, even your spouse. I mean, I'm married. Like, we would both be like, okay, tell me the truth. Like, just tell me the blunt truth. Like, what should I say and what shouldn't I say? What is this going to do? Let's look at it from every single angle from a press standpoint. But I don't think he even has like a really good PR person, because they would not be doing this. Okay, so we're going to read this one, which is the one about Harry has turned against military, says ex-commander. And this one I thought was really interesting because, again, it's a Netflix series. It's a book. It's an actress and a prince who really didn't have a lot of, authority. Now it's becoming a thing. So a retired commanding officer has accused Prince Harry of turning against his family after having trashed his his military family. Sorry. So this guy, Tim Collins, who's an ex-colonel, he says, this is not how you behave in the Army. Prince Harry gives details about his time and as a helicopter pilot in Afghanistan. BBC has obtained a copy. We already knew that. In it, he reveals for the first time, how many people he killed. And then they talk about the quote again. It was a statistic that filled me with pride. It wasn't a statistic that filled me with pride, but nor did it make me ashamed. And I know I read this to you. And then he goes, in truth, you can't hurt people if you see them as bad people. These were chess pieces taken off the board, bad guys eliminated before they kill good people. They trained me to and he puts that in quote, other them, and they trained me well. In other words, consider them just as others, not people. And then now here we go. Responding to the prince's comments, a senior Taliban leader, Anas Haqqani, tweeted, Mr. Harry, the ones you killed were not chess pieces. They were humans. They had families who were waiting for their return. I don't expect that the International Criminal Court will summon you or the human rights activists will condemn you because they are deaf and blind for you. Like I said, this is becoming like an international threat, like an event. So speaking to Forces News, retired commanding officer Colonel Collins condemned the book, calling it tragic money-making scam. Referring to Prince Harry's revelation that he killed 25 enemy fighters, Colonel Collins said, that's not how you behave in the Army. It's not how we think. He has badly let the side down. We don't do notches on the rifle butt. We never did. In other words, he's saying our soldiers don't sit around counting, although one of you commented that they absolutely do. But he says Harry has now turned against the other family, the military that once embraced him, having trashed his birth family. He accused Prince Harry of choosing an alien path and of pursuing riches he does not need. And then Collins is still being quoted. This is, again, the BBC article. In the end, I see only disappointment and misery in his pursuit of riches he does not need, and his rejection of family and camaraderie, love that he badly needs. There's a little bit more, but I need to comment on that. That's really sad. I mean, it's really sad. So I don't know exactly how much money he had before he moved to California. But I know that he had, like, there was somewhere around 23, 24 million or something from Diana. And then also it was known that Queen Elizabeth's mother, so the other Elizabeth, they took that inheritance and intentionally gave Harry more money because they knew that William would at one point become, the Duke of Cornwall, which gives him this entire estate and obviously, the future king. So he had millions and millions. And then let's just, again, review. But then it's like, okay, he marries an American actress and they're like, hey, let's move out of here. And what we've discussed before, we can see how you can kind of feel like maybe you don't have as much freedom. They pick the houses that you live in, all of this, but there are ways to communicate what you need. And then if you are exiting, and even if you want to go into the entertainment business, even if you want to have your own production company, this is not what you have to do. You do not need to spill everything. I have taught my children, I have 7 of them between the ages of 16 and 30. They're amazing kids that use discernment. Think about things before you speak. And when you're in a family, of course, there's unconditional love. However, sometimes you can say things that are so bad that you have to work so hard to gain trust again. And that is what we are seeing with Harry. And this is what this guy, Collins, is saying. So ex-Army officer Colonel Richard Kemp. So now we have another colonel. We've had a major general, a couple of colonels. We've had a bunch of military men now talking about his book. We've had the Taliban, the head of the Taliban, talking about the book. Al Jazeera is talking about it. What? So anyhow, so this guy, Richard Kemp, was sent to Kabul in 2003 to take command of forces in Afghanistan. He told the BBC it's unusual, but he did not have a problem with Harry revealing his kill number. He said soldiers did talk about people they had killed and wounded privately, sometimes as a way of almost decompressing after a period of combat. So they would speak to each other about it, but not always to everybody else, right? On referring to killed Taliban insurgents as chess pieces, Colonel Kemp said such comments could give propaganda to the enemy. Yeah, it's offensive. Like, I think, honestly, how would we feel like if we hear that too? Like, let's say it was like the prince, who was fighting against us. Yes, we killed 25 American soldiers, and yeah, I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel great about it, but it's a reality. So he added the remarks may have undermined Prince Harry's security and could provoke people to take revenge. They're always looking to radicalize people and to recruit people, and we've already seen how the Taliban has capitalized on it. Prince Harry briefly served as a forward air commander, controller on the ground. Okay, we know that. The U.S. and its NATO allies invaded in October of 2001. We know that. Okay, Ben McBean, who lost an arm and a leg serving with the Royal Marines in Afghanistan and was described by Prince Harry as a hero after the pair met at several events, said the royal needed to shut up. That was my thumbnail. Having his mouth, like, everybody wants everybody to be able to freely use their voice. That is true. But we have to have discernment and control. And then he goes on to, and then he wrote on Twitter, love you, Prince Harry, but you need to shut up. Makes you wonder the people he's hanging around with. That's absolutely true. If it was good people, somebody by now would have told him to stop. I agree with Ben, because the thing is that, like I said, yes, yes, yes. They're just saying yes. Or maybe it wasn't even Harry's idea to bring out the number. Maybe the ghostwriter and the people that are taking his, when he's talking, he's like, yeah, they're like, how many did you kill? And how did you feel? And then it's on transcript. They can type it up, but then Harry gets to look and say, take that out. I'm sorry I said that. Or he could have just said, when they asked him the question, how many you kill? I would rather not say that. Or let's just talk about the Taliban experience in this way. Like, keep it more general. Next subject. That's what you do. You have to have wisdom. And again, this is just not just like a regular dude like doing this. And the timing, think of the timing. We have a new monarch. His son is coming out saying this. The soldiers have only come out of Afghanistan in 2021. Like, this is hot stuff. Okay, guys, I'm going to get to the questions in a second. So this is almost done. And then it says, and like many military personnel, he said he had no interest in keeping count. This is some of the other servicemen talking. More often it is those who write books who seem to take more of an interest in their kill statistics. Although the other colonel did say that the men, for kind of decompressing, will talk about that kind of thing. Harry in his role as a helicopter pilot would have had better view than most of his cockpit, seeing individuals up close using sensors and screens. He would also see the impact of his cannon and Hellfire missiles, although clarity would be soon obscured by dust, and he would be able to review footage from the cockpit. But it's not always possible to count bodies on the ground or to distinguish between someone injured or killed. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said he would not comment on the appropriateness of the prince's claim, but added he was enormously grateful for their armed services. And then a military defense spokesperson, when asked about the prince's kill number, said, we do not comment on operational details for security reasons. So, okay, so guys, that is, let me get to your questions. So that is, y'all, yeah. Okay, this is a very simple note from Kay. Yes, like Harry, I always thought he was sort of the tough guy, the dude, the guy you'd want to kind of have a beer with at the pub, hang out with, like tough, but not in a bad way, like just strong. And then he starts complaining about his brother yelling at him. Now I was going to talk about this a little bit more tomorrow. And I've mentioned this before. I mean, I have a loud family, and I lived in New York. I was a Yankees fan, and one of my relatives was a Mets fan. We would yell at each other. I have men in my family who one is a Vikings fan and one is a Green Bay Packers fan. Like I've seen people yell, fight, and it's not uncommon for I would come into my living room and my sister would just flip me because she was learning judo. I feel like that my image of him has changed so much because they're overly, talking about their feelings all the time at the expense of everybody else. I see strength sometimes as being able to express yourself, but also being able to use your wisdom and intelligence to know what to say, how much to say, and when to say it. And so I agree. I think he's a drama queen now. I feel like it's like, do we really need to hear this? It's like you're playing the little violin again, but now he's becoming trouble. It's one thing, this is crossing the line in a whole other dimension, in my opinion. So let me see. Yeah, they're definitely on the same page. Although I think that she he could say, no, honey, sorry, not doing that, you know. Let me see. A royal bragging about killing Afghanistans really don't expect retaliation. The Taliban is highly expressing their upset. Yeah, this is going to be bigger than William slap. Yeah. And by the way, I personally don't think brothers fight again. Nobody, I don't want anybody bullying anybody. I'm not, suggesting that physical violence is, condoned. However, they're brothers. Like, they're brothers. I've had to get in the way, and talk to my boys. But they make up and then they move on. I think the thing that's more damaging at this point regarding William and Harry, and I know this isn't necessarily what you're talking about, William, right now, but is when boys and men and family members stop talking and become estranged. That's more dangerous than them yelling at each other and fighting it out. 1,000%. And what you're saying, William, a royal bragging, like this literally is something that could bring more negativity toward the monarchy in general. But most people do know that the royal family isn't necessarily on the same page as Harry and Meghan, but wow. I mean, I think it's crazy. So it's interesting that Harry goes from saying nothing as a royal to freely giving up information while here in America. Sounds fishy. Well, I mean, I don't know if he was saying nothing while he was in the UK. That was when he was part of the royal family. Yeah, their whole thing is like, just to keep quiet, like never complain, never explain. And so, but you do come to America, and I mean, I think our culture is very different. Our culture is very entrepreneur, like we're entrepreneur oriented, fame oriented. We elevate people. So many people aspire for fame. We're living in a narcissistic time. I mean, we all have our YouTube channels, our social media. And so, but especially in America, it's all about free expression, and especially in America in California. And especially in America and California, when you're being given hundreds of millions of dollars to have your own production company, to be able to, write your books or whatever. I mean, it's possible they could end up making more, like as much money as the royal family, so rather than just, have so much of their lives controlled. So, but again, what I've said in the past is that if you want your freedom, like I've had to negotiate so much, but don't we all know, like, if you really wanted to make it nice with your family and still have your stuff, then you have conversations. Okay, we want to live in California. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But we want to respect the queen and we want to respect the royal family. I know right now we don't see how we can do it, but let's have conversations and figure out how it can work for both of us, for us to have our life in the way that we want, and for us to honor you while still being able to have a docuseries and still being able to have a book. I mean, there are ways to do it. Yeah. Okay. So guys, I'm just going to pick a few more questions. Okay. All right. There's so much to unpack here, and we've got a lot going on this weekend. I'm just going to sort of tie things up now in a little, to tie it all up. I am going to run through Harry's virginity. I am going to talk about the fight between the brothers, and I'll probably do a short about this whole thing because, wow. The book is going to be released. I'm going to go live again after Anderson Cooper's interview. And then for those of you who want to go chapter by chapter, I think it's whatever the week is from Monday, so that everybody can have time if they want to get the book, and we will go through nightly, the chapters. I am Deanna from Hot for History. Please subscribe. Please like my videos, my history videos. I have a great year planned. I will be doing more longer form videos, ranging from, like, I love history the best, but I do feel like right now, because we're heading into a new monarch, that discussing these things are important because it's sort of like interactive live history in the making. I will normally, I don't get into politics that much. I try not to unless I'm talking about it in historic content. And but and I don't really do celebrity gossip. This is different. And so that's what I have in store. So I thank all of you guys for watching, and we will talk to you, I don't know, tomorrow night or whatever. Be looking for my shorts, be looking for some of the other videos that I had, and I will talk to you all later. Good night, everybody.